Greetings, traveler. Often people ask me when we're talking about game design, what is the best academic field to study if you want to go into game design? If you want to make games from all the academic fields that are out there, which would be the most efficient, the most effective for creating better games? So we're going to talk about the hard mode of thinking about this topic, and then we're going to talk about the easy mode. My name is Xanthos. I've been working in the games industry for over 13 years now. And when I started out thinking what I should study if I wanted to get into games in the future, I was basically left out of options. Back then, there was no game design discipline in the academic world. It hadn't been born as an academic topic yet. Even nowadays that the universities do offer a game design major, I've never seen a program that has good enough information to be able to recommend it. So I can say, you know what, if you want to go into games, go to that university, study that subject, and you're basically set. I know some universities offer it, but I've never seen a good program, so to speak. So what do people usually do in this case? Sometimes I've seen people go into nearby subjects, so game art or maybe programming or maybe something similar to that, thinking that, well, if you can do art, surely you can make good games. And that's not necessarily wrong. In fact, what makes this conversation even more complicated is that game design has what I call the game design curse, where no bit of knowledge or information is irrelevant to game design. No matter what you know in this world, whether you know about cars, planes, people, society, cities, history, any type of knowledge that you have is potentially useful and relevant to a video game. It just depends what kind of video game you want to make. Video games have this power, just like manga or anime or movies or dramas. They have the power to show off the interesting part of many different types of topics. So the question remains, what's the most relevant academic field that you can learn, that you can study when going through university or a similar institution like that? Well, for me, there's two. The first is undoubtedly, and more importantly, psychology, specifically human psychology. This is because no matter what you make, the most important distinction here between prototyping for yourself and making a video game for the market is that you're going to make it for other people. You want to make a video game that other people will enjoy. It's not about satisfying yourself. It's not about doing some crazy, cool, complicated technical thing. Creating a video game is primarily to give pleasure, enjoyment, and happiness, and the sense of achievement, and any other good stuff you can put in there to other people than yourself. So understanding what makes other people work and what makes them happy and what makes them sad even. So giving you a view of all the opportunities you have to improve other people's moods and their enjoyment of their time is going to be vastly helpful in your career as a game designer and a game maker. It really cannot be understated how much when we see products out in society, not just video games, they're obviously made to satisfy some constraint. You know, you have to create a fast food menu that costs so much, or you have to create a chair that is made of aluminum and not wood. So these constraints seem to be leading the design of products like that. And the enjoyment of people using these products usually takes a backseat in the design process. So this happens a lot in society. I think it's an area that us as humans have a great potential to improve on. And as game designers, this is our opportunity to go in and have that thought at the foremost of our mind. When someone plays my game, how can I make it sure that they have a good time? How can I improve their mood and the time that they spend playing my game versus playing something else or doing some other activity or even doing nothing? So that's why I think that one of the two really most important fields you can study as a game designer is absolutely psychology. The second one is the complete opposite of psychology. It's math. And I'm not talking about any sort of fancy math or going into advanced equations and any of that advanced stuff. I'm just talking about pure basic math, right? So addition, subtraction, multiplication, and then go into statistics. Statistics, I think, is extremely relevant to games because when you create characters and weapons and parameters and so on, you're going to have to give them some value. So you're going to have to set the hit points of characters. You're going to have to set the attack power of weapons. You're going to have to set the maximum speed of vehicles. All these things will be depending on your decision as a game designer to place a value on them. And having some understanding about how basically numerical values work and how you could do things like, let's say you want to increase the power of all weapons in the game, multiplying that by 1.1, for example, to increase the power by 10%. Very, very simple things like that are super useful. And specifically for statistics, when you are seeing the effect of various items and abilities and so on in your game, you might want to see the overall effect they have over a play session. So not just over a single hit that the player performs, but over a session. Did people play longer on average? Did they explore more on average? Did they take more steps on average? All these things use, specifically the field of statistics to get an understanding over these longer information. And statistics will also come very much in play when you're looking at the analytics of their game, or more importantly, when you're designing what analytics you need for any specific game. And this is for any analytics that's on top of the common information that all the analytics platforms provide. So if you go with something like Firebase, for example, for analytics, there's already information about session length and how many players played and so on, but you will likely want some additional analytics over that. So how many times this item was picked up, or how many times per session was this ability used. All these things are things that you will likely have to create customly for this game experience. So knowing what type of parameters you want and what kind of information you need to see on average is going to be super useful for quantifying if the elements you put in the game perform as you imagined, and when people engage with the game, if they get the experience that you imagined they get. So that's my top 2 most relevant academic fields. If you want to go into game design further, I think that from everything that's out there, these are the 2 most helpful ones. And of course, there is no one answer to this topic, right? As I said, the curse of game design is that all knowledge is relevant to game design. So it's very likely that for a specific game that you're working on, maybe there's some other field that's very, very useful and more relevant than these 2. But going by general terms, I think there's basically no game out there that will not benefit from knowledge in these fields. So that's my recommendation when it comes to those. Anyway, let me know what you think about this. Let me know if you have a suggestion for a topic or an academic field that's even more interesting and more helpful to game design, and I will definitely take a look and let you know my thoughts. Anyway, that's it for today. Thank you so much for your time, and as always, have fun.